Welcome to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. The podcast that will connect you to resources regionally and nationwide to engage them in open, honest discussions so that we can inspire the growth that you need to chase the experience you want. So strap yourself in because here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Chasing Your Experience podcast. I'm your host, Sean Smith, and we've got a good one in store for you today. So the gentleman I'm about to bring on here in a few minutes, his name is Adam Bingham. He's from the western part of Ohio. Him and I met in Columbus a couple years ago at the Scrape Doctor booth down at the I think they call it the Open Season Sportsman Expo these days or whatever. And him and I first met there, and that's when I started to get involved with the Scrape Doctor product line and started using that for my own mock scrapes. And you've heard a story about Adam from James in one of our previous episodes with the Scrape Doctor. And I wanted to bring Adam on board to the podcast so he can share the story personally himself. So everyone, please help me welcome Adam Bingham.
Hey, thank you, Sean. Nice to be here.
Good to see you, my man. Good to see you. We got some things to talk about, and it is the middle of October. Well, actually, let's say middle of October. It's more towards the end of October now. We have some good cold fronts that finally started to come through. I don't know about you, but my cameras are starting to pick up a little bit more. I was a little nervous, I got to say, at the beginning of October because things just seemed to die. And I don't mean physically die. My cameras, there was nothing going on in the cameras. What about you, man?
I went a couple days like that. I mean, just you get one early in the morning, late in the evening, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and then you wouldn't get anything all day long, which was really rare because I get a lot of activities when it's 60, 70, 80 degrees. It really doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it was just the temperature. So, they know what time it is, and it wasn't cooling down for them.
No, and definitely with the way it's cooled down here recently, that, like I said, the activity is starting to pick up a little bit more. I think one of the big problems too, though, was just, I don't know, maybe this might be a regional thing, but we had a crap ton of acorns get dropped this year, like a lot in some trees that I haven't seen put acorns down in a long time. And I think was not, I guess I'll put it this way. It was like the deer were starting to congregate on those acorns because a lot of the food sources here in our part of the state was starting to die off because we've not really had much rain at all. We've been in a drought. This is 2 years in a row coming into season that we've been in a pretty bad drought conditions. So a lot of our food, a lot of food plots didn't make it. A lot of, some of the non-drought resistant crops just didn't do well. One of the farms I hunt, there's a guy who he doesn't farm it, but he does grow clover there for his cattle because he'll go through and cut it a couple times. Even that stuff started to dry out. Now, since we've gotten rain, it's gotten better. It's starting to green up. Deer coming back to it a little bit, but I think it was just trying to find those alternate food sources for them that was going to be palatable. I think it's started to really get them to just converge on those areas. Hello, everyone. This is Sean Smith of the Chasing Your Experience podcast. We interrupt this episode to let you in on some exciting news. If you're looking to upgrade your mock scrape game this year, then head over to scrapedoctor.com and fill your carts full of scrape magic, maybe a poison ivy or two, just a rope squared, or even just a rope. And then enter the code CountryFried10. That's Country Fried, spelled with a K, the number 10, and save yourself a little bit of money. And now, back to the pod.
Now, we don't have any acorns out at the farm where I hunt, but there's some state ground. It's no hunting. It's some of the oldest growth forests left in the state of Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got acorns over there, and I believe that's a lot where the deer are. We got a late planting of corn this year, and 2 weeks ago, our corn was still green. They took the beans off last Friday, but man, I'm really if the corn is off by gun season, I'll be really impressed.
Well, if it's still green, it ain't coming off. So
Well, it's starting to turn now, but all the fields around us that have corn on is still, you know, they ain't touching them yet. They've got the beans off, but the corn isn't. They're in no hurry.
yeah. So some of our farmers have started to take now beans. Most of the beans I've come across is gone, right? They've already pulled them. But the corn, it's about 50-50.
Yeah.
There's about 50% that's been taken. A lot of it's just they're just letting it sit there. Now they'll take it off eventually, but they just haven't got around to it. So
Well, you want to take it off when it's dry. That way it's not in your, you're not drying it in your grain elevator, in your silo.
yeah,
And, you've done a lot of money in propane. So I understand it.
yeah. No, I understand that aspect of it too. The less money you got to spend, the better.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Especially when you're talking about, I'm sure the margins of corn and soybeans not very high. So,
No, I heard something, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago that they said basically it's like the same price it was in 1984. I mean, I don't know how true that is, but it's what I heard, and I was
someone
like,
someone needs to tell Rural King that because their deer corn's expensive.
I go to a local grain elevator by where I hunt and get it.
I use some of our local guys is a little bit higher. I mean, it depends where you go. Then sometimes it's $8 for a 50-pound bag, and sometimes it's $6.50 depending who you go to. But go to Rural King, it's like $10, and I don't even get down the road with Tractor Supply. So, but
Yeah,
anyway, another topic for Ohio, since you're a fellow Ohioan, is have you dealt much with EHD this year?
we actually have not.
Mhm.
We have a lot of gravel. We don't really have mud on our creeks, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yep.
Uh, I mean, you could dig a shovel 2 foot down and you're hitting gravel. All our fields well drained. We actually have moving water all summer long, so we got real lucky. And
Yeah.
I've walked that creek. I've hunted that land for 20 years now, and I've walked that creek quite a bit. It's just it's always got water there.
No,
It
that's good.
feeds another little creek, and it ends up going out to the Mad River, and there's just always water in it.
That's good. We've not been affected by it. That was when my camera started to die. Like I wasn't getting activity. That's why I'm like, oh goodness, that's what I was getting. I really seriously thought that's what was happening.
I
Was
had that fear too. I ain't gonna lie to you because in the past, I've already got big bucks moving, and this year, um, I'm not seeing the big bucks moving like I have in the past 5, 6, 7 years. Um, I'm getting a lot of 2-year-olds moving, some 3-year-olds, but mature 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old bucks. I'm not seeing them, but they're in the corn. They don't have to go anywhere.
right? They're not dumb.
No,
They're not
no.
dumb. Even I think a lot of guys, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, maybe I might be out from left field, but I think a lot of guys don't understand how small a mature buck's core area becomes, and that they really don't like leaving it. Like they don't even during a rut, they don't like leaving it. That's been my experience. Is
2014, I got a picture of just a massive 2-year-old. I mean, just massive. I mean, rack. He was this wide. I kid you not.
Mhm.
Uh, Matter of fact, I've still got those pictures. Um, I had one up close encounter with him in 15. Um, he was with an 8, and it was early in the year. And I'm an outside the box hunter. If somebody tells me you shouldn't hunt there, I'm putting a stand there. Okay. Um, because for years I shoehorned myself into being a tree stand hunter. Oh man, can't you watch every TV show that they're killing deer out of tree stands. That's all I'll hunt. Um, but anyways, I say I hunted this deer for 4 years. Okay, he probably didn't even know I was there. But literally, I could tell you what he did every day. He literally walked by my stands every day. I had him on camera eating corn and apples 10 feet from my stands. And Um, yeah, he didn't go anywhere. He was an acre and a half,
Hmm.
and he didn't have to go nowhere. I've got pictures of him on a scrape where a year and a half old's on there, and I mean that deer compared to that little year and a half old, he literally turns and looks at the camera like, "What is this guy doing?" And you see him, he just walks off the camera. He doesn't even mess with that little deer. And that little buck just kind of turns around looking at the camera like, he was hot shit. It was just, and that was back in the days when you had to pull the card out.
Yeah.
So, I'd leave him set for 2 weeks, and to see those pictures of that buck, I was like, man, it was just, it blew my mind. And like I said, I chased him for 4 years. The last pictures I got of him was September of 2018. And he walked off the farm. Never seen him again. He
Hmm.
never showed back up on camera. He walked off towards a hayfield. I said, well, I walked around a hayfield for, I don't know, probably, I don't know, about 6 hours maybe. Two different times, just looking to see maybe if he went out there and died or something, got hit by a car or something. Never did find him. Um, I asked a lot of people, local people and stuff, because he crossed the road every morning at 5 a.m. But so a lot of people knew of him, and
Hmm.
I asked a lot of people, and I'm like, man, if you shot him, I just want to see him. Just
Right.
let me touch him. And nobody ever confessed to shooting him. I don't know whatever happened to him.
It's hard to say. It's, you know, and I'd hope they didn't come to the demise of like a poacher or something like that. Somebody coming through at night and shooting him or something.
If they did, man, they were 2 miles off the road. I mean, so I don't really.
Yeah.
But then again, you never know. You know what I mean?
Not likely then.
Yeah.
Um, but I've heard the new trick by the poachers these days is thermal scopes on crossbows is the new trick. So they don't even have the spotlight. They just throw a thermal scope on the crossbow, and some of those crossbows. And I'm not anti crossbow, so I just want to make sure that we get that out there. I'm not anti crossbow. Like, um, it is, it's ever to each their own. If that's how you want to go out and enjoy the outdoors, then that's your prerogative, right? That's what you do. However, like some of these ravens, you get to ravens, you get some of these top end crossbows are out there these days. It's nothing for them to be able to shoot 100 yards plus.
Oh yeah, dead center. You sight in at 20 yards, and
Yeah.
it's 100 yards.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So you throw a thermal on there, and maybe I shouldn't talk about this, but you throw a thermal on there, and that's gonna be hard to catch.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
and I hope they do. Whoever is doing that stuff, I hope you do get caught, and I hope you get the stiffest penalties possible. But
yeah.
it depends on who your judge is, because that's something that is another thing that's hard for ODNR to do is to present a case of any value to that animal, to a deer, because a lot of non-hunters, and I'm not saying that this is in a bad light. I'm not saying they're anti-hunters. They just don't hunt. They don't place that type of value on that animal because they're everywhere. I almost hit one with my car every day.
Yeah.
So they don't see or they can't understand the value of like 160, 180, 100 or 200 inch buck. Like, where some of these numbers that they come from, like CJ Alexander.
Uh,
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm pretty sure that was tens of thousands of dollars he had to pay in restitution, or is supposed to pay in restitution, for that buck that he shot. Uh,
when that story first broke, um, I have friends that work down in that area. Well, acquaintances, friends of friends that work in that area. And when that story first broke, I didn't even hear about it at first. And I get a text message, "Hey, look at this deer that was killed." And I'm like, "Holy man, that's a monster."
yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, it was poached." And he's like, "Yeah, it used to hang out near the landfill in Wilmington, Ohio." I'm like, "Oh man!" And this is before I'd even seen anything on Facebook.
Mhm.
And me and James talking about it, I was like, "Man, this is what I heard, but I don't want to say, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I don't understand it. I don't understand it."
No.
Um, I'm a fair chase guy. I mean, I've learned more like that big buck I told you about. Chased him for 4 years. Um, well, I say chased him. He didn't even know I was there. But I learned more from him in those 4 years than I've probably learned, about any other animal.
Mhm.
I mean, because literally, I would go out there every weekend, and I would go out at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was on the stand, and I'd be there till noon. And I'd get out of the stand at noon, go get something, walk a quarter mile back to my pickup, eat some lunch, and was right back in the stand 10 minutes later. And I mean, I basically lived in that stand all weekend long. Man, my wife was not thrilled over that, but like uh,
Huh.
those 40 years, I never filled a tag because all I did, I concentrated on him.
Mhm.
I mean, it was ridiculous. He was my obsession, and
Hey,
it's crazy.
yeah, yeah, it's funny what that caliber deer can do to us, like, when we see them and how much we wanna focus efforts on. And I've got a deer that we got photos of for it's been a couple he's been on the farm for a couple years now, but he's really hard to pattern because he shows up at the weirdest times, and then once he does start to show up, he's there pretty regularly. Like, last season, I had daylight photos of that deer all the time. He's a really good buck, right?
Yeah.
Problem is, every time I go to hunt, I can't he's just not he doesn't show up. Like, he's not there, he doesn't show up, so I don't know if he's well, I know he's not cutting the trail that I walked in on. Like, I know that's not the case because 'cause I'm coming in from a different direction than he normally comes from, right?
Mhm.
So that's not it. And then last year around New Year's, and, I don't wanna disclose too much, but around New Year's, um, I got really, really sick. Like, it was, odd. It was very odd. And, I just did not have the strength to go out, and that deer showed up on my camera like almost every day. And I'm like, this is typical. I can't, you know, when COVID first came out back in 2020, pretty sure I caught it, lost my sense of smell, lost my sense of taste, all that, right? I still went, deer hunting during gun season, took the shotgun out and just walked around. But whatever this was last season, I couldn't even think about leaving the house, and it was odd. So I think I missed the opportunity on him that time. But this year, I have not seen a single picture of that deer. I have not seen one. I've not gotten one. If I have, it was early, and he was still like developing. And I know a couple of the neighbors; they know him as well, and now, whether they're being truthful or not, that's a different story, but I believe they're being truthful. They haven't seen him either. They've been asking us, "Have you seen this deer?" I'm like, "Mm-mm, haven't seen him." The point behind all that is now last year I didn't shoot any. I had opportunities at nice deer, like really nice bucks, and I didn't take it because I was holding out for him. And this year, I'm like, you know what? Which is not my normal MO. Like, I normally don't target just one buck. Like, my go-to is if I don't say no immediately, there's a good chance I'm shooting that buck, right? That's usually how I operate. And there's a couple times that I've seen these bucks. I'm like, mm, that any other year I probably would have shot them, and I don't regret not shooting them, but I do like I was like, probably should have shot them. So this year though, my goal is to like I'm back to just me, how I normally operate. Like, if I see something that the first thing that shows up that I don't immediately go no to, right, is probably going to be in trouble this year. And I've got a couple that I've been chasing, that I've been watching, but we'll see.
Yeah, my wife decided August of 23 that she wanted deer hunt. And I was like, okay, we'll go get your hunting, your you take the class. You got to take the class. So she got online, she took class, and I was looking at compound bows for her. And being in September, towards the end of September, I was like, man, so we started looking at crossbows. You know what I mean? Real easy,
Mhm.
and ended up getting her a crossbow. And see, her third or fourth time out, So he ends up shooting a deer. Came right in, came right down the trail. I was literally in a blind, and I watched this deer come in because we was like 30 yards apart on opposite ends of this path. And I watched this deer come in, and she was complaining because she'd left her earphones in the house. Next thing I know, she texts deer, and I looked over. I said, "Well, yeah, shoot it." And man, she shot that doe. Where it was a button buck. It was her first deer ever, but it didn't go very far. And and now and now she's got the bug big time, but she doesn't have the I'm going to hold out for I got to shoot a buck,
Mhm.
which I'm thankful for, because I know that I've went through that, and 4 years of eating tag soup. Um, you start to second guess what you're doing, and yeah, this year, um, me and my son went out on Monday. Yeah, he got his first deer. Well, me and him used to hunt when he was a kid, and he killed his first deer. Oh man, he was like 9 or 10 years old with a 50 cal muzzle loader. Uh, but he went in the military, got out of the military, and um, he got back into hunting last year, and he got his first deer. It was a button buck also last year. But it was so cool to see that spark ignite in him. So he hasn't got the bug of I'm going to have to hold out for a buck, but he's I get what you're saying, because I'm not trying to hold out for anything this year. We've got a lot of does we got to get rid of, and my game plan is to take at least two of them this year. You know what I mean? I don't
No,
know if off topic. If it did, I'm sorry.
no, 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 no. I am a doe slayer. Like I typically I'll shoot anywhere between 4 to 5 deer a year. Um,
Man,
so I I have no problem shooting does, and I really promote it as much as I can. Um, because the state needs us to do it, and they've been telling us, hey, listen, we need to shoot more does. So um, don't feel obligated. If you need help, if you don't need help, if you need help with your does, I know, man. I know a guy. I know a guy.
yeah,
I know a guy. But before we get too far along in this, we talked a little bit about your wife coming into the game, and your son into the game. Let's talk about you for a minute, though. Let's give your history a little bit. Give people an idea about who you are, how you got into hunting, and and stuff along those lines. How's that sound?
okay. Um, okay, so my stepdad, he was never really a big deer hunter. Um, we hunted a lot of pheasants, shotguns, stuff like that, bird dogs.
Hmm.
Uh, he got into hunting or got into deer hunting. I don't know, probably my seventh or eighth grade year. Um, it only lasted a couple years, and it fizzled out, and we got back into pheasant hunting. Fast forward, I moved out of the house and, start my own family and everything in, 1996. And this was going to date me, but I went into Kmart's. Okay. You remember Kmart's, right?
I remember Kmart. Yeah,
Okay. They had a compound bow uh, for like $100. Um, I couldn't even tell you the name to this day. Now I'd shoot, they had got me, like old longbows and stuff, kid longbows for Christmas and stuff. So, I had an idea how to shoot a longbow. Had no clue about a compound at all. Um, so I buy this compound and buy some Easton aluminum arrows, and, the big around as a pencil. Well, I didn't know anything about, an arrow, the rest or anything. So I bought this site and I put on there, and man, I think I'm doing it big, right? Because
hmm
I've got this sight set and I'm hitting, 20 yards, and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go hunting. So it's raining one Friday, and I go to this local bow shop, and uh, this old man, he was awesome. The owner, he was just like, he didn't try to sell me anything in his shop. You know what I mean?
hmm
I showed him my bow, and I was like, man, I know I'm missing some stuff. What am I missing? And he made me out a list, and he said, go to Walmart and buy this stuff. So I go to Walmart and I buy it, and I bring that bow back. and he sets that bow up completely for me for free. Now that the max range on that bow, it was, it was probably 30 yards, but man, 20 yards, I was killing it.
Hmm.
Um, at that time, my aunt owned some ground, like 5 acres. Um, and I would go out there. I really didn't have a clue what I was doing. At the time, I worked for an asphalt company. Um, so, you'd smell like diesel fuel every day. And one time I go after work and I crest the top of this hill where an old railroad bed was. That was her property. And there was a little 6 point buck up there. And I looked at him and I dropped back down because it was just, you could barely see over top of this just overgrown brush. And man, my heart started pounding so hard. And man, that bug hit me like, I've never felt in my life. Man, if that was a drug and they bottled it, I would be hooked on it. And that's all it took. Man, I was reading every deer hunting, every deer hunting magazine, book, you name it. I was reading it, watching it. I'd go to Walmart and buy the VHS cassettes of Buckmasters or whatever, and they made it look so easy. Yeah, it wasn't easy.
No, it's not easy.
Yeah, I got to hunt that property for, I don't know, probably 3 years. That was the only deer I ever seen on that property. Never seen anything else. Um, she ended up going into a nursing home. They had to sell the property off, and that was kind of the end of my deer hunting for a while. So that would have put us up around 99. Ended up moving to a small town. Um, got to be friends with a neighbor of mine. He invited me to his daughter's birthday, where I ended up meeting the landowner of where I currently deer hunt. And I originally just got permission to bow hunt there. Bow hunted that whole first year, and I ended up getting invited out to muzzleloader hunt. Last day of muzzleloader season, borrowed muzzleloader. I'd never even shot a muzzleloader in my life. Um, Basically, they loaded it and said, "Hey, when you get up in a tree, put this primer in, you're ready to go." And so I'm hearing this movement. I'm thinking, man, that's got to be a squirrel. That's got to be a squirrel. So I look over to my right and there's Buck. Man, I got in that scope and got him in there, and man, I pulled the trigger, and I'll never forget that scope got me right here. And I'm still trying to look through the scope to see if I got him, so I end up moving the muzzle loader out of the way like this,
Hmm.
and I can't see him anymore. So, I waited about 20, 30 minutes, like they said on TV, man, you shoot a big buck, you wait 20, 30 minutes. So I did, ended up finding him. He was a half rack, 4 point on one side. But man, it solidified, that the obsession.
Hmm.
It's just, it's part of me now.
It's it's funny. The more people I talk to, like, so I come from a single mother was my they were my dad wasn't in the picture. Let's put it that way, and
Yeah.
nobody in my immediate family was really big into hunting. Like there was some that had in the past. I know my grandfather, who had passed away long before I came around, had hunted. But my uncles, they really didn't hunt much. The one took me fishing a couple times, but they weren't into the hunting. And it was the neighbors around me, there was a few kids in our neighborhood that was about my age. Their dads, were into hunting, or got them involved in hunting. So then I was very I was very lucky that they allowed me to join with them. And so started squirrel hunting. And then another neighbor, he had some property outside of Coshocton, Ohio, and we ended up deer hunting for the first time. Like your wife, my very first deer was a button buck, with a shotgun, and then just the mentorship that I had from them. And then it wasn't until I was a little bit older, almost an adult, that I get into bow hunting. And you were talking about your first bow you got from Kmart. Well, the first bow I got was off of a friend of mine from Newcomerstown. It was an old Clearwater whitetail. The dude's name was Jeremy Fries. We called him Biggie Fries. If you knew Biggie, if you knew the guy, you know why we call him Biggie. dude had a heart of gold, man, but he sold me that bow. I think I paid like 185 bucks. And I remember those aluminum Easton arrows. I think they're like the 6570s or something that was on there. And
Yeah.
back then, all I figured that had something to do with the poundage of the bow. I didn't know that had anything else to do. I thought, oh, so these are good for 65, 70 pound bows, which is what which is what I'm shooting. So every time I went to Walmart, I made sure I got the same, like, I think it was like 29-inch arrow. It was a 65, 70s. That's or whatever the numbers was. I don't remember these days.
Yeah.
But, just hearing you tell your story a little bit, how you got into hunting, just just kind of brought back some of those memories for me. And it's funny how similar a lot of the stories that I hear, or a lot of stories I get from other guests, or just people I run into out in my travels, is how similar some of these are. Um, and I know it's a big thing too, though. Like, here's something to contemplate. Um, I've noticed in that some of the kids, even the kids that are from hunting families, just aren't into it that much. And I don't think it's because they're being pushed. I think it's because we unintentionally make it too easy for them. While we struggled, we struggled. And I think once we had that success, that's what really cemented it. Now, now it's been so easy because we know what we're doing. And we try to, and we don't mean anything harm by doing this, but we set them up. I mean, all they got to do is just show up. Like, we know when the deer is going to be there. We know exactly what deer you're going to shoot. We know everything for them. We put them in there. We put them in the blind. We put them in that situation. All they got to do is just sit there for a few minutes, and then the deer shows up. They shoot, and we're done, right?
Yep.
And I don't know. I don't know. We as parents, or we as mentors, are trying our very best to try to bring more people into the sport, but are we doing a disservice by making it too easy for them?
My son, let's see, he would have been 9 years old maybe. And I used to take him out in the woods and I would let him pick where I was going to put my tree stands. Like, I would walk in a general direction in a general area and I'd be like, so what do you think of this? And, well, how about this tree? Yeah, Dad, I think that tree would look good. And um, we put a tree stand in it. I remember the first deer I killed out of a tree stand that me and him put up. That tree stand is still in that tree to this day because I don't have the heart to cut it out. Um, Still at the farm. I just don't have the heart to remove it.
Yeah.
You can see it now because the leaves are off. And I mean, it's all bent up like this. Um, but when I would go by there and I remember a little kid that was, I would walk through this area and not step on a single stick, and every magical stick would appear and it would be under his little boots. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, it was awesome. But um, I think you might be right. I really do. Um, I mean, if it wasn't for my stepdad, the outdoors probably wouldn't mean anything for me. He was really the guy that gave me. It took me fishing. Taught me how to cast a bait caster without bird nesting it up, and you just basically put that back in a pickup truck because you're not going to get it out today. Open face reel and jigs and you know all the artificial lures. You know what I mean? He was there when I caught a 5 pound bass when I was in fourth grade, and it was cool for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Back then, Ohio had the catch and release thing, and I got my name in there, and I just thought I was big, big stuff at that point, and got a fiberglass copy of it. As a matter of fact, it's up there on the wall. But it just, yeah, I think that we've made it way too easy. Um, And I think you see that when you see these kids that are like 12 years old and they're shooting a 170, 180 buck, and um, they're on some page with their friends, and somebody shoots a 2 year old. You should let, man. I wouldn't even have bothered to pull. I wouldn't have got out of the truck for him.
Yeah.
You're ruining. People's ruining hunting that way.
Yeah. What started off as a good intentions, because um the but sorry, not Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett is the direction I was going with that. When they originally started off, the premise behind them was conservation, because they wanted to bring back, animal populations. And
Hmm.
scoring system was meant to get you to shoot mature animals because typically it took a mature animal to reach those numbers, right? To reach the 160 it takes to get into Boone Crockett. And then the Pope and Young is 125. Ohio Big Buck is 140 as a typical, and 160 is a non-typical. So the premise behind those is that you're shooting mature deer so that we're allowing deer to continue, to populate into past genetics and to have a chance to continue to populate, right? But on the flip side, that's like anything you give man anything, someone eventually is going to abuse it. And I think
Oh, yeah.
that's what you start to see when you start to see that type of comments is that, they've taken that scoring system and they've used it as a device of, yeah, well, I'll just say it's become a dick measuring contest is what it's become. Um,
Yeah.
who can shoot the biggest buck. And honestly, like, I don't, if I'm ever score related, the only reason I'm after a certain class of deer or I would like to shoot a certain class of deer is would like to become a scorer for the Buckeye Big Buck Club. So I would not mind shooting a 140 to 160, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? To get in the club so I can start that process of becoming a scorer for them. Outside of that, like I said, I'm back to if I don't immediately say no to the deer, it probably going to put an arrow through it. Um, but yeah, that's a touchy subject, and I think there's still, there's people on one side of the fence that, hey, I don't you need to start shooting mature deer, and you hear a few podcasts that talk about that. And you hear other ones that are like, listen, I'm just here to fill the freezer, so whatever shows up, shows up. Um, but what I think we all can probably agree on, and what we probably should agree on, is that the social media, like, I don't mind people being on social media and sharing their outdoor experiences. What I have a problem with is that when you start to degrade somebody for their sharing their experience because they shot something that you wouldn't have, but it was legal, right? They didn't do anything illegal. They did something, it was ethical, it was legal, it was all these things, right? But you're on there trolling them because, like you said, oh, why'd you shoot that 2-year old deer? You should let that deer walk. There, it's funny now because I'm starting to see the inverse of that. So, a couple videos I posted on TikTok, and I know they didn't mean anything like nefarious by it, right? But
Yeah.
it's funny you see the other side of that though, because I'll have a video of like a yearling doe, or maybe a button buck, or maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a yearling buck that's actually got some branches happening, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we'd have had tenderloins that night. I'm like, so I think you're starting to see both sides of that, that extreme starting to appear, starting to be a little bit more vocal. And like I said, I don't think they meant anything nefarious by it. They just, hey, you know what? I'm back to the premise, like, if you shoot what makes you happy, right? You harvest a deer that makes you happy, and it breaks my heart. And honestly, it really does. When the very first comment out of somebody is like, "Well, he wasn't the biggest," or
Mm.
the one that gets me the most is, "It was just a doe." Okay, I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to shoot like the matriarch doe of on a property. She's not easy to shoot. She's not easy to kill. She knows the
He
property.
is the smartest animal
She has
on that.
raised she has raised multiple fawns
Yes.
and has taught them how to survive. And she
Yes.
survived years after years after years of seasons in avoiding predators. Like, she's not an easy target. So,
No.
I it's no, don't get me wrong, anybody, we could probably go out in our back 40 right now, probably sit for an hour and more than likely shoot a doe, right? I'm not saying any type of age class, just a doe. We could probably get it done, right? So I
I
understand.
just shot one Monday morning at 7:35,
But
and I would have shot her if my camera would have had enough light to record it.
uh,
I'm not lying.
I
I was sitting in my hunting shack with the heater on, and I could see her. I got pictures of her on my phone, but my camera wouldn't pick her up. It was just too dark.
Yeah, that's saved a couple of deer.
And my son's like, "What are you gonna do?" I was like, "I'm gonna let her walk. I don't have enough." And then she went over and went down his path where he was at.
Yeah.
And he goes, "She didn't even stop, Dad. She just kept walking." I was like, "She had things to do."
She's got places to be.
And then, uh, what the heck time was it? 8:30. Um, I've got this one buck I call Stubbs. He's a year and a half old, little 4 point. He's just everywhere. I mean, I've got more pictures of him on my cameras. I get 2 or 3 pictures of him every day. He earned the nickname Stubbs. Don't ask me why. I don't usually name bucks, but and I told my son, I was like, man, if he steps out, it's going to be hard for me to give him a pass just because he's everywhere. But there
Mhm.
was 2 button bucks that come out, and at first I thought one of them was Stubbs because I couldn't really see where they come out of. It was really dark still. There's a lot of leaf cover. And I thought I seen a little bit of rack, and I'm like, if that's Stubbs, we're gonna make it happen. And I watched it come out. I'm like, all right, now. Then another one came out. 2 button bucks just hung out. 45 minutes they was in front of me. Did not leave for 45 minutes. Like I recorded 30 minutes of them just playing around in front of me.
If you're
And it was like, man, you guys, I'm sitting here like this. Like you guys need to leave.
if you guys only knew, it, is it just me, or is the longer they sit there, the harder it is to resist the urge to try to shoot them?
I'm gonna tell you, I had my I had my crossbow pulled up, and at one point they was both lined up like this, and I really believed that I could have got both of them.
I had a yearling doe in front of me this morning. This morning's hunt was quite the adventure, but that's another story. And she was there for a long time eating acorns, and I kept looking at her. I'm like, I have not put an arrow through a deer yet this year, and you. But I'm like, you know what? I resisted temptation. I let her go. Actually, it was kind of funny because I started daydreaming. She was off to my left, and I just started daydreaming. I was thinking about, I don't know what I was thinking about. I was thinking about something, and then I remember where she last was. I didn't hear her take off, didn't hear anything. I looked back and she was gone. And I'm like, did I just imagine all that? Did I just imagine that there was a deer there and she actually like wasn't there? So I still don't know where she went. She left about as quiet as she came in.
I
Um,
went TikTok live with those 2 button bucks
or
for
did
10 minutes. I didn't say a word. I just had my phone pointed out like this. It had like, I don't know, 20 people on there. Nobody was commenting, nobody was saying anything. And, finally I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Shut it off. I never went TikTok live before in my life. I had no idea I had to take a picture of myself. And I'm like, man,
oh
I
yeah,
spent 5 minutes trying to get this live set up here.
yeah. It's like when you go to the store and you go to buy alcohol. You're our age. You go to buy alcohol and they card you. You're like, really,
Just turned 21 last night.
really? Like I don't know if I should be I don't I'm not taking it as a compliment. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Trust me, 21 has been about 20 years ago. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've turned 21, 20 years ago, but
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So yeah, this morning's hunt was rather interesting. I got there, a little bit later than I wanted to be. And,
Yeah.
but basically cause I was dealing with some of the, the kid issues, make sure they went to school and did what they were supposed to do. And then I left and I got out there and I found a tree I wanted to climb. I was dead set of climbing this tree, right? It was because I saddle hunt, so I take all my stuff in with me and I take it out with me when I go. So I climb all the time. And so this tree, I'm climbing it, right? Put the stick in, start to go up the aider, and my toes it kept wanting to slip out from underneath of me. So I tried a different angle, did it again, did. So I went to another angle, did it again. I'm like, you know what? Apparently I'm not supposed to climb this tree today. So I went back. So I gathered my stuff and I went back to another spot that there was a bunch of acorns and a lot of sign that deer's been in there. And she was the only deer that came in this morning. And I'm like, anyways. But that spot that I went to has a scrape doctor poison ivy rope sitting very close to it, and I've had a camera on it, and I checked that camera while I was there, and I've got an interesting buck that's shown up there. He's not, he's 3. I would say he's 3 years old. I have not counted his points yet, but I would not be surprised if he's 12 or more points.
Man.
Yeah, he's a good looking deer, and I'm like, I'd be really hard pressed to let him pass if he shows up.
If he shows up at daylight, it's going to be, I wouldn't even have to think about it.
No, it's not. I don't think I want to think about it because I know, and this is going to sound really bad when I say this because I just had that conversation with you, but I know looking at him, I know what his potential could be because I know a couple of the cowboy deer that he's probably his dad or possibly a relative somewhere along those lines, what he potentially could be. But looking at him now, like mm, he's a he would be a hard one to pass that he shows up. That's gonna be one of those ones that he better hope that he comes in a bad angle and catches me before I catch him. So uh,
Well, here's something to remember. Every year that buck survives, he gets smarter
true.
because, they go from button bucks to a year and a half. Well, they've been hanging out with, 3-year-old deer. So they're learning everything that 3-year-old deer, he's schooling them.
Mhm,
Then when they hit 3, they're hanging out with them older bucks. And, them older bucks, they're grandpa. So, before you know it, that that 3-year-old deer's got 20 years worth of knowledge.
mhm.
So he's going to do everything. I mean, I've watched bucks out there at the farm. I've rode by them on quads, and you didn't see them. They was laying underneath, right behind a big log. Where did they learn that at? I mean, I'm 10 feet from them, and they didn't move. I just something caught my eye, and I turned around, and its head went like this, and I was like, "Man, well played, sir. Well played."
Apparently, I need to start hunting with my 4-wheeler. No. Um, yeah, that's it's behaviors that I've noticed that a lot of deer, there are some mature deer that will do that. Like they know if they just sit still, you'll go right past them, especially if you're on like
Uh-huh.
an ATV and stuff, and don't draw attention to yourself and just let it, and they'll go right past you. I don't even want to think about how many deer I've walked past. They just sat there and just watched me go past them. It didn't even move, you know?
I Years ago, I'd read something, and I tried it. The Ultimate Stalking Guide or something, and man, I read it like the Bible. I mean, I studied every page, made notes in it, and I don't know who wrote it. Um, but it said, take 3 steps and stop, look around, take 3 steps, stop, look around. I tried that, and I would make them 3 steps, and I would stop, and you could hear the deer running away from me.
Hmm.
Um, because at that point, you are a predator to them. You're stopping, you're looking, you're trying to see what's going on.
Hmm.
Versus if I just walked right to where I was going and climbed up, I'd have deer come by me in 15, 20 minutes versus that take 3 steps, stop, take 3 steps, stop. Um, and I remember reading in that book where that guy's like, yeah, you take 3 steps and, stand there for 5 or 10 minutes. If I do that going in the woods first thing, it's going to be 2 hours before I get to where I'm going. And I might as well turn around and walk right back out.
It's time for lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only time I do that is if I'm in where I'm going and I have a rifle or the lever action,
Yeah.
the straight wall here in Ohio. That's the only time I still hunt like that. And even then it's not very often. Um, but with a bow, nope, not doing it. I don't like hunting from the ground with a bow. I know there's some talks about hunting from the ground now and that's circulating around, and I'm not a I do have a deer on the wall that I did harvest while I was on the ground. That was not intentional. But that just happened to work out. I've been in positions before on the ground with deer and try to draw them then, or, this is younger, when I'm still learning the ropes of bow hunting. And it didn't pan out because they seen me or they seen something they didn't like and they left. So I don't know. There's something that I like about being up in the tree. Now, sometimes I'm starting to notice that I'm not climbing up nowhere near as high as I used to, and getting opportunities, he's thinking that you have to be 20, 30 feet up in the tree. Not really. My method of climbing is one stick. So I use one stick and then I'm tethered to the tree. So that as soon as I get to the top of that stick, I'll dangle, grab it, move it up to the next section, then climb up again.
Mhm.
I make 2, maybe 3 moves is what it's called. Every time you move the stick up, it's called a quote unquote move. I do that. So that puts me I'm gonna say anywhere between 11 to 16, maybe 18 feet, depending on how far I want to stretch myself up. That's where most of my hunting heights have been. Uh,
Now, I heard something, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't too long ago. And he talked about, man, when I used to hunt 25, 30 feet in the air, he said, now I'm lucky to go down, lucky to be over 10 feet. He goes, and I've killed more deer at 10 feet than I ever did when I was 20 and 30 feet in the air.
Yeah.
I killed my first buck sitting on the ground. Um, first actual buck, 135-inch deer. I'd done something on my back that year, and man, I couldn't walk that very far at all. And my best friend at the time, we had cleared out this spot like the day before. Went in on his quad. I was sitting on the back of it. We cleared this spot out, and man, I put a chair there right by a scrape. He come in and shot him with 12 gauge shotgun. Watched him drop right there. Uh, and it was just the coolest setup. And I have hunted that. Um, it's called the hammock chair, and I've hunted it several times. To me, I ain't scared to take it out in the woods right now and put it in and hunt it right now.
Hmm.
Um, it's just really comfortable.
Hmm.
It's got like this single post that goes down into the ground, and you're in a tree, and it's like sitting in a recliner. You can sit there and fall asleep.
Nice.
Yeah, I told James about it, and James ended up buying one. He's like, "Man, this is the greatest setup ever."
I
Because
love.
I was one of those guys for a while, man, that I'd go buy the lightest stand and the climbing sticks and everything else, and
Mm.
I'm gonna go in and hang this stand up real quick, and I'm gonna be in before the deer even know it. Well, man, that metal and aluminum stand clang banging together at 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever time. Everything in the woods heard you. You're not, there's nothing that sounds natural banging together.
Nope, and that's why I don't go in the dark anymore. Like if it's, I try to get there like every now and again. I'll, if I know I need to be someplace, I'll get in. But I like to get there right. Probably maybe get to my hunting location, or at least the farm I'm hunting, before legal light. But I usually don't hit the woods or start walking through the woods until legal light. So I just want to be able to see where I'm going. And I've had a lot of good success that way, right? So I'm not out there making all kinds of noise and stuff. And I know a lot of people are going. I know there's going to be some people that's going to argue that, and that's fine. We, like I said, we each have our own way we want to do things. But I've for some reason I just like that gray light for me to be walking into the spot. So
Our woods is very lazy. You'll get the wandering deer come through when it's still pitch black. You can't shoot them anyways. That doe that came through at 7:30 in the morning Monday, I haven't seen. She's the first year I'd seen that early for a long time. Most of them don't come in till 8 o'clock. 8 to 10:30 is our sweet spot.
mhm.
Um, by 10:30, if you ain't seen anything, it used to be by 10 o'clock I was out of the woods. 10 o'clock, I'm packing my stuff and heading out. But when I started buying cell cams, I was amazed by the afternoon activities from 10 to 2, 10 to 3, the amount of bucks that were moving around at that time. And nobody's in the woods. I understand. They've done heard everybody leave. But it just, it amazed me the amount of activity that we had at those hours of the day.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I'm not a big fan of going in and it's still pitch black because I'm going to sit there for 30 minutes in the dark for no reason.
Right.
It's not a productive time to be in the woods to me because I can't do anything.
No, and I feel like I scare more deer that way too. Not because on my way in, but because I'm in my stand. And if they're coming through, I don't know. I can't see them.
No.
And then, but they can see me. They know, so
Yep.
they know something's going on. Uh,
Absolutely, they do.
so I feel like I'm scaring more deer than not when I go in that early. So, but yeah, I'll go in. Like I said, like I might get to the farm before daybreak, but I don't really start walking in until that it maybe right before legal light, but it's definitely really close to legal light, and then usually in standby time, sunup is happening.
I'm I'm going in on the quad about 30 minutes before daylight. But I'm hunting a mile off the road now, so man, I'm getting older. I'm getting lazy. I don't want to walk that far anymore
Me
because
neither.
it's not flat ground. You go in and then elevation climbs maybe 75 feet in the air,
Hmm.
and it man, unless you have some of them hills are pretty greasy when it rains and snows and
Hmm.
uh, when I used to go up there, it was you get up there and you prayed that if you shot something, it fell right there because it was going to be a long drag back to the truck. because you wouldn't get your pickup up there, or going back up and getting the owner's quad to borrow to ride up there to drag it out.
Mhm.
It was it was a long walk. I mean, I used to do it, but it wasn't something that I enjoyed doing.
Mm-mm. It doesn't get any easier every year.
No,
It's getting a little harder every year. I'm like,
yeah,
oh man.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I used to hunt this one stand. It was 150 yards from the road from where I parked. I killed a bunch of deer from there, and everybody told me, "Man, you shouldn't hunt there. You shouldn't hunt there. You shouldn't hunt there. You shouldn't hunt there." I killed a bunch of deer from that spot.
mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions that people, I know, rather they've heard of somebody else and then they keep going with it. Um, but I think you find out that if you just try it, you'd be surprised, because I know there was a buck that was bedding really close to our access onto one of our farms. So he was bedding really close to there. And I know darn well he watched us come in there. And probably the big reason why he was there was because he knew people were coming in and out. So he just bedded there because he knew that we were probably the only real threat to him. So he wanted to know we were there.
Yep.
Maybe I'm giving the deer too much credit. Maybe not. I don't know. People will let me know, I guarantee. But anyways, he would bed close to that road, so he knew when we were coming in and out of there.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but also, I've hunted out there a couple times. You hear a lot of people that are like, "Oh, you got to pack in 5, 6, 10 miles." We've had more encounters with animals out there within the first mile off the road, off the trailhead, even when we did try to pack into a location. Um, so I just Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's some merit to some of the things they're saying, or people wouldn't be doing it. But on the same token of that, like, don't overlook some of these spots that just because of distance, you would overlook them. Um, if obviously, if there's some issues with the spot, like, there is a lot of pressure, or there's the access is wrong or something like that, then maybe think about it. But if it's a good spot, who cares if it's 150 yards from the truck? That's easier for me to drag the deer back too, if that's the case, or maybe, but
I can drive the truck that 150 yards in there. The
no,
trail's that wide. You know what I mean? But yeah,
yeah. So I mean, it's deer. I understand deer pick up on things, but I think people give them too much credit in certain areas and certain aspects, and then or they don't give them enough credit in others. But that's one of those things where, like, listen, if it's a good spot, it's a good spot. Like, it doesn't matter how far off the road it is. If it's 50 yards off the road and there's deer in there, that's a good spot. So you should try it out. But
I
ah,
had an old timer tell me one time. He hunted a bunch of public land, and every year he'd tag out. And I've never hunted public land. All right, not because I'm spoiled. To me, um, I don't know enough about it. Um, I would have to really go in and do a lot of boots on the ground um, to really figure it out. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Um, and the fear of you've got guys that may have been hunting here 5 years, so they know it. And me putting a tree stand up and them going, hey, that's been my spot. That was, you know what I mean? So
right.
um, that's why I'm not, I don't know the area, so I'm not going to go in and bother people that do. Um, but I had an old guy tell me one time, he said, I go when the sun's up, I walk in right off the trail, right outside the parking lot. I set up and I kill a deer every year. Them guys are walking miles back in there and they're spooking everything to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was 70 years old,
Yep.
you know.
That's an interesting kind of a concept, though, because I guess it goes back to the experience that you're looking for, because there are probably some guys who to them, they would feel cheated out of the experience by just sitting right off the road and having deer spook to them, right? Now, although we're both trying to achieve the same goal, and that is, harvesting a deer, he's found his way to do it. I could see some guys that like that challenge of going in that deep and doing things that way that would feel cheated because of that. And I'm not saying that's what he's doing by doing that. I think that's just kind of like a personal experience that someone's trying to gain or someone's trying to have in the woods.
Yeah.
And I get that. I understand that. Um, but if your experience or what you're after is you're wanting to harvest a deer, there's nothing wrong in that story and what that guy just did, because he's not wrong. That's what's happening. The people are going in there and they're pushing them back. They're pushing them back out to where they think they're safe, where no one else is except for him.
You can't shoot a deer sitting at home on the couch. I mean,
No.
you've got to be in the woods, and
Mhm.
if he's legal, do it.
Hey, listen, he's legal and you're happy with him, or she or her or whatever. Do it. Do
Yep.
you know? Do it, lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Dude, I'll
so
never, I'll never knock somebody's way of hunting. It's
no, nope, nope, nope. As long as it's legal, it's ethical, moral, I don't go after it, my man. It's
absolutely.
enjoy it, and I'm happy for you. And a lot of us will sit there, even those guys though even those guys I think would feel cheated with that experience, though, would probably are still scratching their head like, huh, I can't believe he did that. I've been
Well,
hunting here for years.
let's be honest. There's a lot of we as hunters are our own worst enemy. Um, we will tear another hunter down before we ever build them. They say we're losing hunters. I haven't really looked into the numbers to see, how accurate it is, because I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if it's lack of places to hunt, or maybe they hunted someplace for years and they've lost it, or leasing or whatever. But we're losing hunters rapidly. So to bash for another hunter to bash another hunter, we've got enough people on the outside that are doing it. We shouldn't be doing it on the inside.
No, we shouldn't be, and that goes back to your previous comment about when you get on the social media and people are bringing you down because you're happy in posting your harvest of this 2-year-old buck or whatever. Some it doesn't have to be a 2, it could be a 3. You can go up to a 6-year-old buck, and someone's going to go in there and tell you, "Nah, you should have gave that buck another year. You should see what he's like when he gets 7 or 8 years old. That's when they reach their maximum or their peak antler growth." I'm like, dude, whatever. Just stop. And
You know, you read, man, I read it. Oh man, just think that could have been a 200-inch, 240. Man, it takes a lot of genetics, a lot of good genetics, um, a lot of stuff that people just don't have for a deer to get that big. You go and you look at states like Vermont, Massachusetts, Maine. A 120 class to them is a big deer,
mhm,
because that's a 200-pound deer. That deer is more concerned with putting weight on
mhm,
than it is growing a rack.
mhm,
Um, when I was out in Alabama, um, I was in the southern part of Alabama. The deer wasn't big. 110, 120. I remember going to work and showing guys pictures, and they're like, "That's a shooter." Uh, I didn't know what a shooter was. I put trail cameras out, never did really hunt down there because I didn't understand the deer. I'm looking up here, you know what I mean?
right.
And to me, that was, 2-year-old deer, 3-year-old deer. And down there, they're like, no, that's a good deer. Of course, they're able to take a bunch of deer down there. So I didn't
No-
really know.
Noted.
But you're not going to have the age structure or the genetics everywhere for a deer to become a 200-inch deer.
No. And beyond genetics, though, like you said, like there's going to have to be an abundance of resources too for them to be able to reach that maximum, because the antler growth is the last thing that the body's going to denote energy to, right? Or going to promote
Yep.
or going to send energy off to do, right? Energy and resources. The majority of it's going to be building weight, putting on the weight that it's going to need to be able to survive for the winter, or just the maintenance of its body. And this is a discussion I had with the retired deer program administrator in a couple podcasts ago, talking about this, and he brought this point up. Now, on face value, if you look at the number of deer that are being brought into the Buckeye Big Buck Club, right, the number appears to be going up, right? So that on face value is like, oh, so that must mean we have better bucks. He's like, however, though, if you compare that to the number of bucks that are harvested, right, and you do the ratio between the bucks that enter the club versus the bucks that are harvested, and you go and you do a look back over the years, you're going to start to see a decreasing trend in the percentage of bucks harvested that make it into the Buckeye Big Buck Club. And he's like, this is the sign that our population or that our deer herd is starting to decline, especially when it comes to antler growth. And he goes back, and, him and I, now granted, there's probably a few factors that go into this, right? Maybe some of the areas are starting to get a little bit more mature, so they don't have the typical nutrition that they've had, or just simply there's too many mouths on the landscape and there's not enough nutrition for them to be able to devote that resource to. It's still one of the reasons as to why they're talking about we need to start removing deer from our herd. Like,
Absolutely.
we need you to help. We
Yeah.
need hunters to help with that, right? So I hear those points, and I get that. And what you said, like, it that just kind of sparked that whole little conversation I had with him, because it was a valid point that you brought about the Vermont deer, and is that they do need to know resources because they could be able to survive the winter. Canadian deer, their deer are bigger than ours, body wise, are bigger than ours, because once again they need to be able to survive the winter.
Yeah.
Um, but it's I, it's now I understand there's some people who manage their properties. They have the money to do so, and they're not growing deer, but they're growing deer, right?
Yes.
Um, and it's I just heard Josh Bomar talking that he feeds his deer alfalfa, cracked corn. Like, he actually has like a feeding program that he does for his deer. Okay, you will be able to grow a lot of big deer that way, because you are giving them the resources that they need to be able to reach that. I understand your point where you're trying to get there. However, let's look at you and me, or who are your average hunter. Not so much. We're not going out there and dropping that out, or we're on property that, they're like, they're kind of limited on what they want us to do. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to get around that, and I understand there's different approaches to take on that. So I don't want to pigeonhole it just to that. There was just one example of, yeah, that you want to grow deer like that. This is how it's done. And
It costs dollar bills.
yeah, and well, he said this. He goes, well, then say, he's like, so this one farm, I had a lot of big deer. Like, I, been my feeding program, what I've been doing, all this stuff. I've been growing big deer on this. I sell it to a guy, till I was done. It's like, I just didn't have the time to go out there anymore. I was just whatever the reason was, right? I sell it to him, and this guy gets a hold of me. He's like, where's all these big deer at that you're talking about? He's like, well, are you doing this? Or are you doing that? He's like, no. Back to that point, what they not only do they need the genetics, but they also need the abundance of resources for them to be able to reach that type of caliber on more than average, right? There's going to
Yep.
be a few outliers that are going to be able to hit that, just because, but generally speaking, they need not only the genetics to get there, but they need the abundance of resources to denote to that type of growth. So, and time, you know,
Yes.
and time
Yep.
to get there.
Yeah. I've only ever had one buck scored, um, because I was curious what it was. I had no idea.
Mhm.
I can't look at. I'll be honest. I can't look at a deer on the hoof and be like, yeah, that's a 160. That's a one. I can't. I can't do that. I mean, I look at a rack and go, man, that's a big rack. But I ain't gonna be able to tell you that's a 150, 160 class deer.
Me neither. That's my judging is good enough.
Yeah, I mean that big buck I chased. I don't have a clue. To me, he was huge. I mean, he could have been a 170. I don't know. I'll never know. I never touched him. Don't have a clue what happened to him. Um, man, I that the score doesn't really mean anything. A name in a book, cool.
Right. I told you my reason for it. And that's really honestly the only reason that
Well, I'll tell you what. When you get yours, I'll let you score this buck. I will come to wherever you're at, and I'll let you score this buck because I've never scored him. I don't have a clue what he scores. Doesn't.
I had one I thought last year. I'm like, I thought he was going to make it, because he's a really big, thick antlered deer, right? He wasn't remotely close. I'm like, well, so back to your point, I can't judge for yeah, I can't judge for shit. So it is.
Um,
I'm not that person. I've never been that person. Um, but let's let's start diving into let's start diving in though to your involvement with James, because we brought him up a few times in conversation. Today I was hunting over, not over, but remotely close to a setup that I have bought from James and the Scrape Doctor, and following his system. So how did you get linked up with James the Scrape Doctor?
Oh man, 2016, 17. We both were staffing for like the same thing, and um, me and him we chat a little bit, and we just realized it. Man, we thought a lot outside the box. Because man, I showed him pictures of old books that I had, um, red hunting books. I don't even know, North America or something, and he's like, yeah, I've got them same books. I was like, yeah, them was a whitetail Bible. Um, oh, you don't scrape, you don't hunt around scrapes. Yeah, that was where the deer were. Man, I told you I was a guy that you told me I wouldn't hunt there. I'm going to hunt there.
Mm-hmm.
And when me and him was throwing ideas around, it's like you think like I do. If the deer was there once, he'll come back. Rub lines. Oh, you can't really tell a deer's direction. Well, yeah, you can. If you look at this tree, it was on this side, right? You look at
Mm-hmm.
this one, it was on this side. Okay, so that deer was going that direction. Keep going that direction. See what else is that way, because you're going to find he might have zigzagged all through there. Hunt that path,
Mm-hmm.
because that might be where it was. And that's what me and him we started bonding our friendship over that. A few years later, he left where he was, and I wasn't that active in that group. I ain't gonna lie. Because it was all bull. You know what I mean? Um, Not gonna badmouth anybody, but it wasn't. They didn't represent what I thought. It wasn't for me. Eventually, me and him always kept in contact. He kind of did something else, and I kind of gave up on the staffing thing for a while. He started doing something, and I got with him, and I'm like, "Hey, look, what are you doing?" He told me, and I said, "Well, I'll tell you." He goes, "Well, I'll send you some." I said, "Nope, you're not going to send me anything." I said, "I will buy it. You tell me, I'll send you the money." He sent me this product, and I tried it, and um, it was a good product. The scent wasn't where it was at, what he was using, and then he ended up leaving there, and me and him were still talking and stuff, and he said, "Man," he said, "I'm going to do it on my own." I said, "Thank God." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Dude, you don't need anybody else to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're doing. Do it. If you fail, you fail." And I mean, I told him from the beginning, "Dude, I'll stand right beside you. If I got to carry you, I'm going to carry you. I'll put you on my back, whatever it takes. We're going to make it across this finish line." In March of 23, he sent me poison ivy, is what it became known. And when he sent it to me, I had a Cabela's camera on it. I told him, I said, "I'm going to go buy a cell cam, and me and you will have access to this camera." Um, and Straight Magic, we're getting pictures of it daily in March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Well, it was a spot that I had hunted, and I'd killed, a buck there that was on that scrape. Well, I wasn't hunting that area anymore, but they was still there. And I told him, I said, "Got a better area for that." I said, "Someplace I'm going to hunt." So I moved it up to the new spot, and we still had deer on that path looking for it every day. So after I moved it, it was like new deer found that within 12 hours and started using it. I didn't even respray it. And me and him's talking one day. I said, "Man, what are we going to name this?" He's like, "I don't know." I said, "I got an idea," because I'd been reading a bunch about what deer eat. They eat poison ivy and stuff that if we touch, we're going to get a reaction to. I told him, I said, "Poison ivy." He's like, "Well, I don't hate it." So that's how poison ivy got its name. That year, there was a lot of guys that hunted that area, that first core area where I had that poison ivy. 6 deer come out of that. 6 bucks came out of that area. I mean, because I had sprayed down the branch above it and everything. By the time that season was over with, that branch was gone. It was laying on the ground, and it was, I mean, it was probably 2 inches around. They had just trashed it. And like I said, $6 came off that spot. And it just kind of blew my mind. Um, I'd shot a doe that year off poison ivy. Um, it was just a good year. My wife had shot one. Um, we had a pretty good year that year. And then when he talked about the next year, we're going to do it. And that's when Scrape Doctor ordered or went live April the 1st I told him, I said, April Fool's joke, huh? Because you're going to piss the people off with this. And man, that's what it was. No, I'm sorry. That would have been 22 that he sent that to me. But yeah, it just, it pissed people off. I'm sure it did, but
Mhm.
it went, and it's been a gradual climb.
Yeah.
Because if you take off in a hurry, I don't see the staying power. You know what I mean? You're on social media, you see those groups that's got 3,500 field staff representatives, and um, you go on any group, and it's, oh yeah, you got to use this is the greatest and the best, and the man, it's not.
Right.
I won't knock anybody's product because everything works. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
With time,
Mhm.
how much money are you going to throw on a product? Oh, you got to go out and refresh your scrape every 2 weeks, and this one bottle costs you $35, and it's going to last you 2 weeks. 2 weeks, you're going to pay another $35, so now you're in $70. Is it cost effective for you? Because you're going to give that company $75 every month,
Mhm.
and every month they're coming out with something, the latest, greatest, the best, and you're going to buy that plus what you already bought, and then they're going to have this great big sale on something that you got a special order, and you're paying up front for it, and what are you exactly getting? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I will say this. I'd had because we met in 24, um,
mhm.
which had been March in 24, which was just a little under a year that actually, so when we met in March of 24, I had James on the podcast April of that year. And it happened to be the 1 year anniversary of Scrape Doctor that he was on the podcast, which was kind of interesting. But so I met you guys there in Columbus, it's sometime around St. Patrick's Day. Sometime in March is when that generally is. I can't say, I don't remember exactly the dates it was back in 24, but I
Yeah, I want to say in March, because if you remember, there was like that tornado that hit up there around Indian Lake, which was really weird uh,
Mhm.
for that time of year. But yeah, it had to have been March, for maybe the first part of March, because in February that year we was in Shipshawana show in
Mhm.
February. So yeah, it had to have been maybe in March.
So I bought, let's see, I
Yeah, I
bought,
stopped to talk to you because you stopped and I said, do you use mock straight for deer? And you're like, not really. I said, man, why aren't you? And next thing I know, James is over talking to you. You told us all about it. Uh, I lived an hour from the Columbus show, roughly an hour, 45 minutes. And I looked you up that night and I listened to you on the way home. And I got back in that next day and I told James, I said, if he calls, do that podcast. He goes, why? I said, man, because a lot of podcasts you listen to, them guys, they know everything. I said, this guy's one of us. I said, he's not a know everything guy. I said, he's one of us. And that's what really impressed me about you.
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you talking, James, getting on because he's I definitely have gotten a pretty good friendship with James, as good as it could be of me living in Ohio, him living in Michigan, and basically having a digital friendship with each other with being on the podcast because he's been a great guest. We've had a few series together, but your experience you had with poison ivy, like I think I got just a rope squared, and I think I got some. I think I got a couple. I don't remember exactly what I bought that first time. I know it's great magic, and I think I got a couple ropes from you there at the show. I got those out, and I think within 12, I don't think it was even 12 hours, I had deer on them already. I'm like, all right, game on. Let's do it, right? Game on, right? And so And that was also something that, James kind of opened my eyes, because typically scrapes to me was during the rut. We would create scrapes here and there, like, because during the rut in a couple spots we thought they would bring deer, keep the buck back in that area. I had no idea about running it all season long, right? That was a
Yep.
concept that was not even in my database to even think about doing, right? Or the fact that, back when we made mock scrapes, it wasn't about spraying stuff up in the licking branch. It was about kicking the dirt up, spraying some stuff down in the dirt, and
Yep.
maybe around the trunks down on that level. Didn't even do anything to licking branch. And that's he totally has flip flopped what I'm doing now after meeting James and talking to James, you and James and everyone from Scrape Doctor. Those conversations I've had. So that's now changed how I very rarely do anything to the ground. Maybe kick it up the dirt, the dirt a little bit. I might pour water into it now, maybe, but I'm focusing more on those licking branches or those artificial licking branches using like the poison ivy, so just the row square, and just the immediate results. Now, granted, this year's been a little odd. I have a couple that's on cell cameras that's not getting a lot of activity. And then I've got some that are not on cell cameras that are doing really well, that, they've had some pretty consistent activity on them. And it's just this year. The way this year's been, it's been an odd year
Oh,
for
it's that way everywhere.
deer activity. And so I'm not concerned at that, right? And I know they're coming to it. Like I had a really big 8 point. I don't think I've ever seen an 8 point this big before, who made a stop at the poison ivy on one of the farms. First time I've ever seen him, but he made a stop there, looked at it. I could see him sniffing it, because it wasn't video, it was, just a typical picture. So he made a visit there. But I haven't seen him since. And then I got a couple does that show up every now and again. But generally, well, I'll tell you this: when I first put that poison ivy up, though, does hit it like almost immediately. Like, I left, and they were there a couple hours later. They're up there checking it out, rubbing up on it, sniffing it, see what was going on. And then that spot there just pretty much it's hit or miss, and I just the way it's been panning out, and it's like I said, it's not the product, it's not this, it's not that, it's just how that spot's turned out to be this year. Because when they are there, they're hitting it, they'll see it, they'll come up and check it out. But
Mhm.
other than that, but yeah, I'm with you. The almost immediate um effect that not only the scrape magic, but also just the concept of setting scrapes up, what James and you guys are out there preaching
Oh,
about.
yeah, when I tell people, they're like, "Well, how many scrapes do you run?" And I'm like, "D d do you a lot." "Well, what do you mean a lot?" "Man, 175, 150." Man, it all just depends.
Hmm.
I've got a spot on the farm I don't even hunt. I've got 75 over there, just on one section of this path
Hmm.
that nobody even hunts. Why? I don't know. I know that I've never I've never hunted it. Nobody's ever really hunted it. I've got a ladder stand down there. It's been there for 3 years, and it got used twice. It wasn't by me. You know what I mean? But to me, if you can get the deer working those scrapes, and you've got a bunch of scrapes, they're going to be on their feet all day long,
Hmm.
because they're going to make that loop all the way around. And if you just connect that buck is going to be looking for the buck that he thinks made that. Well, that buck's you.
Hmm.
You just got to be in the right spot to get it done. Because you've got cell cameras. You know what it's like when you're at work and you get a notification of
Hmm.
whatever, poison ivy, camera, new image, buck, and it's like, man,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, typical, typical.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so one of the deer, and I won't go into the story. Basically, one of the deer that I went out the next morning, ended up shooting him. But I got a photo of him. I was DJing for an anniversary party, and there was their wedding anniversary. I'm like, who gets married in November? And sure enough, I'm sitting there, my camera goes off, I look, and here's this buck. I'm like, oh, you gotta be freaking kidding me. I'm showing people at the party. I'm like, look at this. And they're like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't do anything about it now. I'm doing this. It's like, well, are you going tomorrow? I'm like, I'm going in the morning. I'm like, well, you better. And so sure enough, I went out in the morning and he, for whatever reason, he came right back through that trail again. And he had a few scrapes up there and ended up running an arrow through. Matter of fact, my woodland scrape, this is the one I was telling you about. I just got a photo on it. Give me a second here. Looks like there's a deer there. Yep. There's a
Yeah,
doe.
mine I had a notification go off on mine too.
Yep. There's a,
It's a doe, of course.
just speaking about it,
I'm sorry, I cleared that out, and I've got 38 new notifications.
there's a doe. There's a doe out here right now. Just got done talking about. And there's one coming out there. So
Yeah, yeah.
obviously you guys have you and James have known each other for a while. You've been through a couple of different companies, together, or at least have grown with each other when it came to that. And now you guys are with the Scrape Doctor system running those. And James, of course, when we had him on the podcast, I think the last podcast that we did was kind of like the rewards of the system, right? And your story about the buck that I think I'd like for you to share with us, came up. Obviously, this.
You want to see him first, and then we can share the story?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay, now my wife, in order to keep order, she don't mind it, but she decorated him, okay?
Oh, that's gorgeous. Look at that deer, man.
Yeah.
He's a dandy.
I'm proud of him. I really, truly am.
I would be.
I mean
He's a darn good deer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's good
Yeah.
symmetrical too. What is he? Let me see. Is he in?
He was a 9 at one point,
Okay.
but it got broke off. So yeah, he's a nice 8.
Yeah, he's pretty real symmetrical. I bet you if you ever do get him scored, I bet you he'll score pretty well.
Yeah, I don't have a clue, man. I I I'm proud of him.
He he's a and I like I said, I'm not a score guy, but like if you ever decide to do it, I bet you he would score pretty well.
Here's how I always knew it was him. If you look at his rack, see how the back of his rack is?
Yeah.
That's how I always knew anytime I got a picture of a video.
Yeah.
Dude, I've got pictures, like I said, all the way back 2014. And I literally will, if I see a deer this year, a buck this year, I am looking last year to see that buck. Oh man, he's got white across his nose here, or right here, or he's got a white hoof. Okay, cool. So I mean, if somebody shoots a deer on the farm, I'm like, hang on one second, I've got that here. Let me send you that picture. Let me see. And I'll have 2, 3 years of pictures. That deer, 3 years, and he was on that other side of the farm that I told you I had one of the ropes on,
Mhm.
and never hunted him. Got pictures, got videos of him in June, July, August, September, October. And he disappeared, and then he would show back up next year, do the same thing. 24, I have pictures of him May, June, July, August, September, first part of October. He disappeared. And me and James, we send videos back and forth and pictures all day long. You know what I mean? Anytime I get one, hey, check this out, check this video out, check this. One morning I had him in my food plot. I'm like, man, look at this, and he was just wearing that poison ivy out. And then we lost him, and I was like, man, I did. I ain't gonna lie, I asked some of the neighbors, because I knew he disappeared, but it was just kind of weird. Just seemed like a different part of the year.
Mhm.
But our woods is so thick that there's places you can't see 20 yards in there. And it's big, big woods. So, he could be hiding anywhere. You're not going to see him. November the 27th, I think it was, he popped up in a video on a poison ivy that he always hit. He hit it, and then this other buck that was a 10 point, a little bigger than him, hit it, and he destroyed that poison ivy. I mean, he was there. My mole trees will do 15 seconds of video, and I had 30 seconds of video on him from just that one time. I mean, he just wore that thing out.
Mhm.
So I didn't really think much of him because, like I said, it was kind of still dark out. You know what I mean? Couldn't shot him even if you wanted to. Um, it was a spot that we called Neverland because it just every year there's big bucks in there, and there's really no good way to hunt it. Just the way it is, it's one way in, one way out. You know what I mean? You've got to use that path to get in there that they're going to use.
Mhm.
So I never thought much about it. Thanksgiving comes. The day after Thanksgiving, we all get together. Everybody that hunts out there, we go shoot our guns. You know, make sure that everything's sighted in, because if not, you don't want to be out there Monday sighting everything in. And we get everything sighted in. Then we leave and go out for breakfast. And me and the owner and a new guy. Matter of fact, that was his first trip to the farm. Day after Thanksgiving, Friday. The owner wanted to take some lumber back to his platform, and his platform just sets up on this beautiful knoll, overlooks this nice valley. You can see probably 500 yards down to the bean field. Well, the bean field that year. And my quad is noisy. It's a true stroke old Polaris, but I just love the damn thing. And he's got a Honda, so you can hear and smell my quad. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And we get the lumber off my quad, and the other guy gets off, and I'm looking down this hill, and I'm like, look, there's a buck laying down there. Oh, no, ain't a buck. I said, man, that's a buck. Come here and look. I don't see it, Adam. So I start down this hill, and I walk down about 25 yards, and I'm just kind of looking at this buck behind a tree. And I mean, this tree is just massive. And I watch him move his head around. Keep in mind, there's a poison ivy that he had been beaten on up on top of the hill. I mean, if you go up the hill and everything, it's a nice 5-10 minute walk, but for a deer, you can make it in no time.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that deer's alive. So I hurry back up the hill to my Polaris, my big quad, and my crossbow sitting on there. Well, my wife had got me that crossbow Christmas of 23 because I'd done something to my elbow and I couldn't pull my compound back. I couldn't hold it. I ended up hitting a doe in the shoulder. Didn't get any real penetration, but we looked for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours that night. So I told him, I said, man, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to shoot that buck. He said, no, you're not. He goes, I don't see it. I said, I'm telling you, it's behind this big tree. And there's a lot of trees that have fell over from wind and stuff, and big root balls are 6 feet in the air. So I make my way down this path, and I'm trying to keep from crunching limbs and trying to stay behind these trees. And I get about 300 yards down from where we started on this hill. And I start making my way over, and I get to about 20 yards from it. And I'm sitting down because I'm cocking my crossbow and I'm getting a bolt in there. And, I want to make sure that, if this deer's dead, I'm trying to figure out, what's going on with him.
Mhm.
And, every once in a while he kind of flip his head because the wind was blowing towards him. And, I'm like, okay, he's all right, because I'm not seeing any injuries on him. And I, get sighted in on him, and I'm sitting there and I whistle, nothing. I'm like, man, stand up. Because I feel bad shooting an animal laying down. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, stand up. He's tossing his head around, and he turns and looks at me. And when he turns and looks at me, I thought, oh, he's done. He's getting ready to bolt.
Mhm.
Well, I went ahead and sent it. And when I sent it, he stood up and he's standing behind a tree. And I'm like, I know I got him. And he's looking to the north. Well, he turns around from the north and he comes up, and then he crosses over on my side 10 yards from me.
Mm.
And, we're eye to eye at this point. He's looking right at me, and I'm like, oh, man. So I go ahead and I get the crossbow cocked up, and I load another bolt in there, and I let one shoot. Well, this one hit the shoulder on the other side. I've actually got pictures of this whole hunt. I've got a picture of that bolt in him. And he kind of wanders off and he falls down. And I mean, to me, man, it seemed like it took forever in my mind. It was over in a minute. But he's laying down and he's just kind of thrashing. And I'm like, all right, he's going to lay there and die. So I make my way over to where I first shot him, and the arrow is broken half, and the broadhead and the arrow. And I'm like, man, okay, just a bunch of blood laying there. And then you can see where he had went. You could trail him. So I sneak over, and I'm kind of on the upwind side of him. And I've shot, I've got shot him twice now. And he gets up and he starts to wander off. And what he did, he just falls over and goes down this little draw, and there's like a little flat spot. And I literally got him on video taking his last breath.
Mm.
And I'm texting James pictures in real time as this is happening. The owner is standing above me, and like he's hollering, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" And I'm texting him. And so we have this whole hunt thread going through the hunters, and I'm texting that, sending pictures as all this is happening. And it was just the most surreal moment because, I mean, I've got tons of pictures with him.
Mm-hmm.
Never had any sightings of him while I was out there, but just tons of pictures. Um, and to take a big buck like that way, I mean, to me, I personally think he'd been running does, and he was just exhausted because where he was laying at, the sun was he was on a hillside, and the sun was just hitting him, and he was getting warmed up. Um, I don't have a clue how long he'd been laying there. Nobody hunts that spot but the owner of the land.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one that hunts it. A matter of fact, right now with the leaves still on, you're not going to see down there because it's just so thick. It's a great gun spot, but bow, it's not a bow spot. Um, so the new guy, he comes down, and as a matter of fact, he's the one that took first pictures of me holding it. And I'm sending pictures out. I've got a pretty broad chest, so it don't look like a big deer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when you get up on it and you're trying to drag it out of this hole, and you realized, hey, this thing's got some weight. I'm lucky enough to have guys with me to help me get it up the hill, with the quad and a strap and everything, get it up there, and we ended up going and getting a sled and dragging it out with the sled, and one of the other guys come over to congratulate me. He was at a Thanksgiving for his family, and he left there to come and see this buck. These are guys I've been hunting with for 20 years. If I need something, I could call any of them, and they'll be like, "Hey, whatever you need, I've got it. Come get it." It's just really a family connection that we have, and man, I felt real honored to be able to to have him leave his Thanksgiving, and for the owner to see me, get that, and I told him, I said, "Man, you should have pulled your phone out and recorded it." He said, "I didn't even think about doing it." Because they had a bird's eye view of everything that was
Mm-hmm.
happening. It,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, in my mind, it took forever because when it stood back up in my mind, I was like, just lay down and die. You're
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching you. You're blowing blood out of your nose, out of your mouth. You're dead. Just
Mm-hmm.
just stop. Quit moving around and just lay there. I didn't want to hear it start screaming. If you've ever killed a deer and
Mm-hmm.
that thing screaming, I didn't want to hear that. And he went out like a true warrior.
Yeah.
It was just a surreal moment that happened, and that'll probably never do that again in my life.
It's
To just walk up on one down a hill through leaves, crunching and everything else.
Was it windy that day or anything?
No, it really wasn't. It might have been a slight breeze, maybe 2 or 3 miles an hour, but that was it.
Yeah, nothing's going to give you the type of cover noise to help you get down the hill. I've
No,
met you. I'm not saying this to be me. You're not a little feller. So you're
6'4", baby. What can I say? Yeah.
you're 6'4" down this heading down this hill that you just spotted a buck that you're not even, and you end up walking up on him bedded, and he had no idea that you were there, and you were able to seal the deal. Not only once, but the fact he even got closer to you at 10 yards while you're loading a crossbow, um, which, and then he gets a second bolt in him. Man, that's once. I'll say that's once in a lifetime type of experience to have. Um,
I I really figured once he stood up, he was gone.
mhm,
I figured he was gonna just take off running to the north, and he was gonna hit, because we was 300-400 yards from the bottom. And I mean, it's pretty. I mean, it goes the hills like this. You know what I mean? So once he'd have started down that hill, there was no stopping him. And I would have, had to go to the bottom, of course, and we'd have got on our quads and rode through the field and to the other side of the. We'd have figured something out to get him out. But
absolutely.
yeah, it was just to come back up the hill. He went against everything that I've really figured in that short of time in my mind. I'm like, oh, he's going to go downhill, and then he turned around and came over basically where I'm standing, and I could have threw a stick at him, and he just stood there. He didn't, he looked at me a little bit, and then he kind of looked ahead, like, "Yeah, what's my next move?"
Mhm,
And I've got a cocking rope, so I've got my foot through there, and I'm pulling it back, and it was just, yeah, it was the craziest thing ever. And like I said, to literally take pictures, to pull my phone out of my pocket and not take video, but take pictures
mhm,
of all this. And I mean, I've sent you some of the pictures.
you did.
Um, it's And one of the guys asked me, he said, "Man, what'd you do? Have a camera mounted to your bow?" I was like, "No, I literally took my phone out of my pocket, and took pictures."
Taking pictures, this is going on. I'm curious, I wonder now, in the moment, you probably didn't see it. I wonder if there was a doe that he was locked down on with down in there, that's why he didn't wanna leave there.
To be honest, I have no idea. Um, because I locked onto him, and
Yeah.
I mean, I was just trying to get down and stay behind down this hill, and sounding like I'm walking through a bowl of cornflakes. Um, every leaf is crunching. I mean, you know what it's like to walk through the woods
Yeah.
in November when it's dry. I'm probably walking through leaves that's, top of my boots. And so, it's just crunch, 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 crunch. I was moving with a purpose. I wasn't like tiptoeing.
Mhm.
I was trying to get down there because, my thought was, oh, if I see that, he's got a busted up, if somebody shot him, let's put him out of his misery. You know what I mean? But there was nothing wrong with him. I was there when he got, you know, uh, when we gutted him. The only broadhead in there was mine. Matter of fact, I've still got it, still covered in blood. I mean, I could clean it and rebuild it.
Mhm.
Uh, Spitfires for the win. And go put it right back and use it now. But yeah, there was nothing wrong with him. Um, no bruising on him anywhere. Like I said, I just think he ran himself ragged, and that sun felt good, and he was going to lay down there and take a nap. He didn't expect me to come along, or any of us to come along for that matter.
So, I wonder if that's where he was disappearing to too, like, maybe that was his area that he just went to every time that, you would lose him. I wonder if that's where he was going.
Well, it's very possible because, I mean, it's the far it's one of it's I don't know. He was probably 100 yards, 75 yards from the property line. Um, so it's very possible because,
Mhm.
like I said, nobody went back here. It was really quiet. There's no reason the path ends right there. So there's no reason for any of us to go back there.
Right. And he probably knew that. I mean, through years of being on that farm, he knew that. And I get maybe that's where he was going the entire time, and you just happened to catch him at the right time, right spot. It's kind of like the Tootsie Roll commercials. The world may never know, but it's
Yeah,
that's interesting that that you come across him there, and but didn't you say though you got a photo of him on a poison ivy, like a recent photo of him before that
yep,
happened? Yeah.
yep. I think it was November 27th, and November 29th is when I killed him.
Mm-mm-mm. So he's back in the area. That's interesting. Well, the whole story is interesting. Just the fact of how it all went down. And I understand like trying to get the photos or not the photos, but like the have a video of it because honestly, how many deer hunters have you said this to? And they went to you, looked at you, said, "Okay, bullshit. What happened? What really happened?"
To be honest, I don't tell. I'm like, yeah, man, I shot a nice buck. And I leave it at that. Because if I'm like, yeah, I snuck down this hill, crunching through leaves, the only guys that I've ever told are the guys that hunt there with me. Because, well, two of them was there. One of 'em, my buddy, I called him on the phone. He was in Kentucky, I believe, and I told him, and he's like, I've seen that, Adam. I've seen a big buck go across the field and just stopped because it was wore out and just laid down. I mean, like I said, I hunt with a great.
Mhm.
They're all friends. You know what I mean? Um, I consider us all family. If I need anything, if they need anything, they know a phone call, I'm there. When I got it back, we played poker that Friday night, and I mean, I had had the headset in there. Everybody looked at it. It just like I said, it's a real proud moment. Biggest deer I've ever shot and killed and shot at.
Well,
You know,
you earned it, buddy.
and for it to happen that way, it just
Yeah, it's not, there's certain species that, stocking up on animals hard regardless of whatever species it is. Some are a little bit easier than others. Whitetail, I think, is probably one of the hardest ones to sneak up on. They're cagey animals. They're ready to, the wind blows the wrong direction, they're gone, right?
yeah.
Here's something they don't like, they're gone, right? Um, just just the fact that all those variables just came together and just everything went perfect that day for you. And I couldn't be more happy for you because that's a dandy buck, and that's an even better story to go along with it. Just how that went down, man. That is something to be proud of, my man. Um, if I didn't have my own crazy story, I don't. I'd almost have to say, okay, now what really happened? But no, I think every hunter, if you've done it long enough, you're going to have that experience where everything just went right. Like it didn't, like it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have gone
No,
right. It just shouldn't. We shouldn't even be having this conversation because typically this doesn't happen. But for whatever reason, everything came together that day. Call it divine intervention, call it coincidence, call it just pure sheer luck, whatever you want to call it. It came together that day, and you tagged a great specimen of an Ohio whitetail buck, my man.
oh, absolutely. Like I said, it. My grandson, he's 19 months old, and when he comes over, that's the first thing he wants to do is touch that rack. He'll stand below it like this, and yeah, I'll reach him, I'll pick him up, and I'm getting him out in the woods, and had him out last Saturday with me, and um, and I moved the camera just a little bit. He walked over and put his hand on that camera, like, no, Papo, it's got to go this way a little bit more. Had him in my
Mhm.
shooting house for a minute and rode him around the farm on the quad. It was, nice day, and he don't realize what we're doing yet, but
He will.
someday he'll realize what we're doing.
He will. He will.
Yeah, he will.
Well, good. Sounds like you got the next generation getting involved in it too, man. That you
Oh,
are
absolutely.
good on you, man. Good on you spreading the word and keeping that tradition alive and stuff. And I hope the little guy picks up on it and has as much success that you have. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because all the dumb shit I've tried, he ought to be able to. He's not going to see all my bad habits that I first started. I've still got bad habits, but maybe he won't
Oh,
catch.
well, we all got bad habits when it comes to hunting.
Oh
And,
yeah,
today I think I chased out like 6, 7 deer out of a spot because I was walking in and they were already at the acorns and they, they, proof scattered when I walked by. I'm like, all right, well, this is, I already see how this day is going to go.
hey, them acorns are going to be gone one of these days. You won't have to worry about that.
Well, I need to get out there and then a little bit earlier. This is one of those spots where I probably should be a little bit earlier in and get there before they come in off the field. Because I'm still sitting without a deer. Like normally by this time of year, I've at least got one or two does that I've got an arrow through. Generally I'm not full on buck mode yet. If I have a good pattern on one, I'll try. But generally, I'm a rut kind of guy for a buck. Like, so I'm okay shooting a buck, not a specific buck. So I'm okay with that kind of stuff. So, uh,
Yeah, it's funny. I went out that Monday, the first day of gun season, and had 16 doe in front of me,
mhm.
and I was like, man, I got that deer at the processor, and I'm like sending pictures, and the wife's like, yeah, you better just wait because you're having all this done and the head done too, and it's going to cost a few dollars. Let's not take another one up there today.
It's me just a little bit of money. Yeah. 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 I got a few bills.
Yeah,
I got a
God
few.
love her. She keeps me straight.
Somebody's got to keep us in line, I guess.
Amen.
Uh, well, Adam, it has been a pleasure chatting with you, my friend. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss or get out there before we close this thing out?
if I can just give a shout out to the guys I hunt with, if that would be cool with you, I'd love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. Um, Start off with the man that let me hunt there, Butch. Hey, appreciate you. Don, Don Senior, um, James, Jeff, Mike. Man, you guys are all, all family. And Tom, appreciate you too. All the advice that you gave me that I never listened to.
Amen. Well,
And my wife, my biggest supporter and biggest cheerleader.
amen to that too. Well, Adam, I don't think I could have said any better myself. Sounds like you got quite the support team, and I think you guys are all lucky to have each other in your guys' lives, and I wish you guys a lot of luck in your upcoming adventures and stuff, and bringing the next generations into the sport too. So, um, man, it's been a great time. The last hour, almost 2 hours we've been talking now. It's been freaking great. It's felt like it's only been 30 minutes, but we are approaching 2 hours now.
Yeah, we are.
So, I do appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit down and talk to us, man, and tell this great story.
Absolutely.
It's one of those stories, like I said, like this shouldn't have happened. Like we shouldn't be sitting down having this conversation because not because you did anything wrong, it's because everything, everything, everything wrong went right. Because
If I told this to a whitetail biologist or somebody, they'd be like, "Yeah, no, seriously, how did you do this? Yeah, you did what through leaves, and did you like kick every? Did you take a leaf blower through there? No, man, I didn't do any of that.
no, man, no, I did not. Dude, that's an amazing story, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And if you ever do get the deer scored, I would be interested to know what he goes. I bet you could probably get yourself in the Buckeye Big Buck Club with that deer. I think you know.
If I ever get him scored, you're going to be the first person I get a hold of. You and James will be the first people to know.
Well, I appreciate that, and like I say, it better be James. It better be the first person, and I better be a close second. So,
I'll make a like a group text, and you'll both find out at the same time.
well, I appreciate that. Is there anything else you like to say in closing, my man?
Appreciate the opportunity. Kind of made a dream come true today. I always wanted to do a podcast about deer, and man, I just don't know enough about anybody else that want to.
Well, man, I appreciate you. I'm glad I could be your first podcast to be on, and hopefully you get a chance to be on a few others. Um, there everybody has their own kind of flair, has their own type of niche when it comes to podcasts and what they do. And I told James too. I said, go be on as many as you want, as many as you can. Like I'm not here to restrict you. I don't want exclusive rights to anything. Like just go out and do your thing. Go out and talk and get the word out there. Because I have my people. It's growing. I'm still relatively new. My audience is growing. There's some more established. They're reaching different people. Get out there and get those stories told because it's the storytelling and the success stories and the camaraderie that I think is the really the driving factor behind what we do is that camaraderie. And there's been certain aspects of the sport, like gun hunting, that I've kind of gotten away from because I kind of lost the camaraderie because there was a group of used to do it. Then we got away from it and the group started to go down a little bit and it just kind of lost that camaraderie. So I kind of lost the interest in it. So
We lost a lot of the older generation; they're no longer with us. That and we're still trying to get it done. You know what I mean? The
yeah,
camaraderie. Uh, when I first started bow hunting, it's you versus the world. You know what I mean? It's a singular sport, but um, man, when you get friends and the camaraderie and the stories, I told you, how I shot this buck, and you might tell somebody else, man, you ain't never gonna believe this. And somebody watching this will tell the same, man, you ain't gonna believe this. This guy,
you ain't gonna believe this shit. Listen to this.
yeah, 6'4" looking Bigfoot coming out through the woods, just crunching through a boy cornflakes. He shot a monster.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe this year thought it was Bigfoot coming. And he's like, oh,
Now, if I had my ghillie suit on, I'm telling you,
that's just Harry. Everything's fine. Oh, Adam, amazing story, my friend. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast and telling us. So do you want to drop your socials real quick in case somebody wants to give you a follow?
um, TikTok, Um, Osage Adventures, I believe. My son made it up. And YouTube, the same thing. We have a Facebook page, but I really haven't done much to it.
Me neither.
One of these days, I need to post something on it. I guess. Yeah, just been an honor and a privilege to talk to you, and for people to get to hear stories. Um, that's what it's all about: passing down stories, generation. That way, nothing's ever forgot or forgiven.
Absolutely, my man. I don't think I could have said any better. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, Adam, and sharing a story of, well, an amazing story of an experience that's maybe a once in a lifetime experience with a buck that is just amazing throughout the entire thing. The buck, the story, the wind up to it, how this buck has been on your radar, but he kept disappearing on you. Then you finally got that one picture on a poison ivy or it was a poison ivy, right?
Yeah, poison ivy. Yes.
On that poison ivy. And then next thing you know, 2 days later, there he is. And you made the perfect stalk in an imperfect situation to land two good bolts into this buck. And now he's sitting in your house, nice year amount, decorated by your wife.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Decorated by the boss. So
yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to sit and listen to Adam and I talk over the last 2 hours. We covered a lot of stuff today, and I hope you found some enjoyment and maybe some inspiration and motivation to go out there and chase your own experience from Adam's story. Trust me, it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes even doing the wrong thing, even if when I say the wrong thing, guys, got to take this in the right direction, right? Stay legal, stay ethical, stay that. But all the things that people tell you not to do because it doesn't work, you might be surprised. It might actually work out for you.
Absolutely.
Like we heard in this story, it can happen. And I've got my own personal story. You guys have probably heard it. If you're not, go check it out. But until then, make sure you go check out Adam on his social media accounts that he dropped out for you. If you've not followed us on TikTok, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I would tell you Facebook, but like Adam, I don't check our Facebook. I just stay out of it. And so basically the big things are Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube is where you can find us at. If you're new to the show, follow the show, give us a like, leave a comment, share it with your friends. You can find it on Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and also Apple Podcasts is where this is currently being fed to. Video versions is on Spotify and YouTube, audio only on all the other platforms. But until our experiences cross paths again, may y'all have the courage to fail, but yet the humility to learn. And as always, we hope you stay safe out there. And God bless you. Thank you for listening to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. Before you go, don't forget to leave us a review and follow the show on the podcast platform of your choice. Are you hungry for more Country Fried Outdoors? Then follow us on Instagram at Country Fried Outdoors, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Country Fried Outdoor Productions.